Okay, what's rationalizing the denominator? So let's take 5 over the square root of 3. So as you can see in the notes, I rewrite the question all the time. But on the videos, I'm just going to go straight to it. So the method is, I'm going to do it in red, times the top and bottom by the root in the denominator. Read the English and sentence in the notes. Multiply the top and bottom by the root in the denominator. Not only the root. So if there's also something else down there, for example, a coefficient, don't, or else you'll have to simplify further later, whatever. Okay, so let's go down the page. So on the top, we just have 5 times the square root of 3, which is just 5 square root 3. And on the bottom, we're doing root 3 times root 3, which is 3 times 3 is 9, and the square root of 9 is 3. So we're just going to put a 3 on the top. Type in the question before we did the method, and type in the answer. Circled after we did the method. Make sure they're the same. They are. So there's a whole bunch of theory as to why that all works. But we want to rationalize the denominator. We want to get rid of the root on the denominator because for some reason it's easier to times by a root than to divide by a root. Whatever. We might be rationalizing the numerator later in calculus. All the same. Okay, let's take a look at a more complicated example. 5 over 2 minus the square root of 6. So again, look at the notes. But because I have a minus sign on the bottom, between two terms, I'm going to this time times the top and bottom by the conjugate of the denominator. So the denominator is 2 minus root 6. The conjugate is 2 minus, plus root 6. Top and bottom, 2 plus root 6. So again, if the bottom had a minus, we times the top and bottom by opposite of the middle term. We don't change the front term. Don't make up rules. So I'm going to put a box, I'm going to put brackets around everything that needs it. Then I'm going to distribute the top. So we get 5 times 2 is 10. 5 times root 6 is 5 root 6. Then I've taken the denominator off to the right in the notes. I've FOILed it out in the notes based on our multiplication theory from last section. Further off to the notes, off to the right is the notes about differences of squares. And when you FOIL that out, the middle terms go away, and you just get the answer -2. Now I'm going to put that on the bottom. What I want you to do is do processes off to the right, and then bring them back into the question. Check your answer, circle your answer, put the question and the answer into your calculator. Make sure it's correct. Make sure you always do brackets around the top and brackets around the bottom before you type it in the calculator, like we learned in previous grades. Down below is another example of the conjugate. This thing, multiplying the top and bottom by the conjugate. I hope that's right. And we did it again in the example down below. And further at the bottom, we have a cube root on the bottom. And if you have a cube root on the bottom, you have to rationalize the denominator twice. Multiplying by the top and bottom by cube root of 3 twice. So that's rationalizing the denominator. You have to do it when they tell you to, or stickler teachers just force you to do it all the time. Whichever. Keep in mind, we're doing 3 chapters of trig next year. This is very important stuff. So we did adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing, rationalizing the denominator. We're now going to look at solving radical equations.